The lock was backward. County Inspector Gary Hollis stared at the trailer door and tried to understand what he was seeing. The bolt mechanism was installed in reverse. The locking bar faced inward, toward the cargo space, away from the outside. That meant the door could only be locked from inside the trailer, not from outside. But the driver had been found 200 feet away, in a ravine. How had he locked himself inside a trailer and then ended up outside? The Peterbilt had been discovered by a highway maintenance crew in March 2025. The truck was parked on an abandoned service road off Interstate 80 in Nebraska. Snowdrifts had buried it for years. The spring melt exposed the cab roof. The crew called the state patrol. They excavated the truck and checked the VIN. The registration belonged to Daniel Cross. He had been reported missing in March 2016, 9 years ago. Hollis examined the trailer doors. Both were closed. The locking bar was engaged. He tried to open them. They would not budge. He walked around the trailer. No other entry points. No vents large enough for a person. The only way in or out was through the rear doors. And those doors were locked from the inside. Hollis called a locksmith. The locksmith arrived and studied the mechanism. He said it was a custom job. Someone had removed the original lock. They had reinstalled it backward. The locksmith said it would take about 30 minutes to reverse it again. Hollis told him to wait. Hollis wanted to document everything first. He photographed the doors from every angle. He measured the locking bar. He checked for tool marks. The bolts holding the mechanism in place showed signs of recent work. The metal around the bolt heads was scratched, like someone had used a wrench, but the scratches were old. Rust had formed over them. Hollis estimated the work had been done years ago, probably around the time Daniel disappeared. The state patrol had found Daniel's body in a ravine about 200 feet from the truck. The remains were skeletal, but the clothing matched the description from the missing person report: a denim jacket, work boots, a belt with a turquoise buckle. Daniel's sister had provided photos. The buckle was distinctive. The medical examiner confirmed the identity through dental records. It was Daniel Cross. The cause of death was exposure. The examiner said Daniel had died from hypothermia. The temperature in March 2016 had dropped below freezing several nights in a row. Daniel had not been dressed for extreme cold. The examiner estimated the time of death as mid-March 2016, within days of when Daniel was reported missing. The remains showed no signs of trauma, no broken bones, no bullet wounds. Daniel had simply frozen to death. Hollis reviewed the case file. Daniel had been hauling a load of canned goods from Iowa to Wyoming. His last check-in was March 12, 2016, at 4:23 p.m. He told dispatch he was making good time. He expected to arrive in Cheyenne by midnight. Dispatch confirmed. Daniel never arrived. The freight company filed a missing person report on March 14th. Search teams checked the route. They found nothing. The truck and cargo vanished. Now the truck was here, and Daniel was dead in a ravine. Hollis wondered what had happened. He walked from the truck to the ravine. The ground was uneven, rocky, covered with sagebrush. The ravine was about 15 feet deep, steep sides. Daniel's body had been at the bottom. Hollis wondered if Daniel had fallen, or if he had climbed down. And why? Hollis returned to the trailer. He told the locksmith to open it. The locksmith worked carefully. He removed the bolts. He flipped the mechanism. He reinstalled it in the correct position. Then he unlocked the doors. Hollis pulled them open. The smell hit immediately. Stale air, mild dew, rust, but no rot, no decay. Hollis climbed inside. The trailer was full. Pallets stacked with boxes. The boxes were labeled: canned vegetables, canned fruit, canned soup. The same cargo Daniel had been hauling 9 years ago. Hollis opened a box. The cans inside were swollen, rusted, expired. but intact. He checked another box. Same condition. The cargo had been sitting here for 9 years. Hollis walked to the front of the trailer. He checked for any signs of disturbance. The pallets were neatly stacked. Nothing appeared moved. He searched the floor. No footprints in the dust. No personal items, just cargo. Hollis climbed out. He examined the locking mechanism again. Someone had reversed it on purpose. But why? He considered the possibilities. Maybe Daniel had reversed it himself to secure the cargo. But that did not make sense. Why lock yourself out of your own trailer? And if Daniel had locked the doors from inside, how did he get out? Hollis checked the trailer walls. He looked for hidden panels, secret doors, anything. He found nothing. The trailer was solid. No modifications. Hollis concluded that someone had been inside the trailer when the doors were locked. That person had locked the doors. Then that person had somehow escaped. But how? Hollis contacted a trailer manufacturing expert. He described the situation. The expert said it was impossible. Modern dry van trailers had no hidden exits. The only way out was through the doors or through the roof, but cutting through the roof would leave evidence. Hollis checked the roof. No cuts, no holes, no damage. The expert said the only other possibility was that the doors had been opened after they were locked, then locked again from the outside. But the mechanism did not allow that. Once locked from inside, it could not be unlocked from outside, not without breaking the lock. Hollis was stumped. He returned to Daniel's body. The medical examiner had completed the autopsy. The report was ready. Hollis read it carefully. Daniel had died from hypothermia, but the examiner noted something unusual. Daniel's hands showed signs of frostbite, severe frostbite, the kind that suggested prolonged exposure. Daniel's face and feet showed less damage. The examiner said it was odd. Usually frostbite affected extremities evenly, unless Daniel had been using his hands more, trying to do something. Hollis wondered what. Hollis checked Daniel's personal effects. The state patrol had recovered them from the body. A wallet, a phone, a set of keys. The phone was dead. The battery had corroded. The forensic team tried to recover data. They found nothing. The wallet contained Daniel's driver's license, some cash, a photo of his sister. The keys included a truck key, a trailer key, and a small brass key. Hollis did not know what the brass key unlocked. Hollis examined the trailer key. He tried it in the lock. It worked. The key was correct. Hollis wondered if Daniel had used this key to lock the doors. But if he locked them from inside, how did he get out? Hollis decided to test something. He climbed into the trailer. He pulled the doors closed. He locked them from inside. Then he tried to find a way out. He checked every surface, every joint, every seam. There was no way out. After 10 minutes, he unlocked the doors and climbed out. He was no closer to an answer. Hollis contacted Daniel's sister. Her name was Monica. She lived in Iowa. Hollis called her. Monica said she had been waiting 9 years for answers. She was relieved they found Daniel. But she wanted to know what happened. Hollis asked if Daniel had mentioned any problems before he disappeared. Monica said no. Daniel had been happy. He loved his job. He was saving money to buy his own truck. Monica said Daniel was careful. He followed all the rules. He would not take risks. Hollis asked if Daniel had any enemies. Monica said no. Daniel was friendly. Everyone liked him. Hollis asked if Daniel had mentioned anyone following him. Monica said no, but she remembered something. A few days before Daniel disappeared, he had called her. He said something strange. He said if anything happened to him, she should check the brass key. Monica asked what he meant. Daniel said it was just a precaution. He did not explain further. Monica thought he was being paranoid. She did not ask more questions. Now she regretted it. Hollis looked at the brass key again. He wondered what it unlocked. He checked the truck cab. He tried the key in every lock, the glove box, the storage compartments. Nothing fit. He checked the trailer again. He looked for a lockbox, a safe, anything that might use a brass key. He found nothing. Hollis was frustrated. The key had to unlock something. But what? Hollis decided to search the area around the truck. He walked in widening circles. He looked for anything unusual. After 20 minutes, he found something. A small metal box, buried under rocks near the ravine. The box was rusted, but intact. Hollis pulled it out. He tried the brass key. It fit. He turned the key. The lock clicked. Hollis opened the box. Inside was a notebook. The pages were damp, but readable. Hollis opened it carefully. The notebook belonged to Daniel. The entries were dated. The last entry was March 12, 2016, the day Daniel disappeared. Hollis read the entries. Most were routine. Fuel stops, delivery schedules, weather updates. But the last few entries were different. On March 9th, Daniel wrote truck behind me again. Same route. 3 days. On March 10th he wrote asked at truck stop. No one knows the driver. On March 11th he wrote called dispatch. They said ignore it, probably coincidence. On March 12th he wrote stopped at service road. Truck followed. Driver got out. Said he needed help. I said okay, big mistake. Hollis read the last entry again. Daniel had stopped to help someone. That someone had followed him for days. Hollis wondered what happened after Daniel stopped. He turned the page. The next entry was written in different handwriting. Messier. It read Daniel locked in trailer. Will freeze tonight. Truck will be found. Eventually. No one will understand. That's the point. Hollis felt a chill. Someone had written in Daniel's notebook. Someone who had locked Daniel in the trailer. But the message did not make sense. If Daniel was locked in the trailer, how did he end up in the ravine? Hollis read the entry again. He noticed something. The entry said Daniel locked in trailer, not Daniel is locked in trailer. Past tense, like it had already happened. But when? Hollis returned to the timeline. Daniel's last check-in was March 12th at 4:23 p.m. The notebook entry was written on March 12th, but no time was listed. Hollis wondered if the entry was written before or after Daniel's call to dispatch. He checked Daniel's phone records. The last activity was 4:23 p.m. Then nothing. The phone went offline. Hollis concluded the notebook entry was written after 4:23 p.m., probably in the evening, around the time Daniel would have stopped for the night. Hollis examined the trailer lock again. He tried to reconstruct what happened. Someone had forced Daniel into the trailer, then locked the doors from outside. But the lock mechanism was reversed. That meant the person had reversed it before locking Daniel inside, or after. Hollis asked the locksmith how long it would take to reverse the mechanism. The locksmith said about 15 minutes, with the right tools. Hollis concluded the person had planned this. They brought tools, they reversed the lock, they locked Daniel inside, then they left. But Daniel had ended up outside the trailer. In a ravine. Hollis wondered how. He examined the trailer one more time. He climbed inside. He pulled the doors closed. He locked them. Then he waited. He tried to think like Daniel. Trapped, cold, running out of air. What would he do? Hollis looked around. The trailer was dark. The only light came from small gaps around the door seals. Hollis walked to the doors. He pushed on them. They did not move. He kicked them. Nothing. He examined the locking mechanism from the inside. He could see the bar, but he could not reach it. The mechanism was designed to be operated from outside, unless you reversed it. Hollis realized something. If the mechanism was reversed, the locking bar could be reached from inside. Hollis tried it. He slid the bar to the side. The lock disengaged. He pushed the doors. They opened. Hollis had done it. He had unlocked the doors from inside. Because the mechanism was reversed, Hollis climbed out. He understood now. Whoever locked Daniel inside had made a mistake. They reversed the lock to confuse investigators. But that reversal allowed Daniel to unlock the doors from inside. Hollis reviewed the timeline. Daniel had been locked in the trailer. He had spent hours trying to escape. Eventually, he figured out the reversed lock. He unlocked the doors. He climbed out. But by then, it was night and freezing. Daniel was disoriented, cold. He walked away from the truck. He stumbled into the ravine. He could not climb out. He froze to death. Hollis felt a wave of sadness. Daniel had escaped the trailer, but he had not survived the night. Hollis returned to the notebook. He read the entry again. Daniel locked in trailer. Will freeze tonight. The person who wrote it had predicted Daniel would freeze, but they did not know Daniel would escape the trailer. Hollis wondered who had written it. He checked the handwriting. It was messy, hard to read. Hollis sent the notebook to a forensic handwriting expert. The expert compared it to known samples. No matches in the database. Hollis reviewed the case. Someone had followed Daniel for days. That person had forced Daniel off the road. They locked him in the trailer. They thought Daniel would die inside. But Daniel escaped and died outside. Hollis wondered why someone would do this. The cargo was still in the trailer. Nothing was stolen. It was not a robbery. Hollis checked Daniel's background. No debts, no enemies, no criminal record. Daniel was clean. Hollis contacted the freight company. He asked if they had any issues with drivers in 2016. The manager checked the records. He said there had been a problem. Another driver had been fired in February 2016. The driver had accused Daniel of reporting him for falsifying logs. The accusation was true. Daniel had reported him. The driver was fired. The manager said the driver had been angry. He threatened Daniel. But the manager thought the driver was just blowing off steam. He did not take it seriously. Hollis asked for the driver's name. The manager said it was Frank Barrow. Hollis tracked Frank down. He was living in South Dakota. He worked at a warehouse. Hollis called him. Frank said he remembered Daniel. He admitted he had been angry, but he said he had moved on. Hollis asked where Frank was on March 12, 2016. Frank said he was at home, alone, no alibi. Hollis asked if Frank owned a truck. Frank said yes, a pickup. Hollis asked what color. Frank said black. Hollis checked Daniel's notebook. Daniel had written that a truck followed him. Hollis wondered if it was Frank's pickup. He contacted witnesses, truck stop employees along Daniel's route. He showed them photos of Frank. One employee remembered seeing Frank at a truck stop in Iowa on March 10th. The employee said Frank had been asking about a Peterbilt driver. The employee did not know why. Hollis asked if Frank seemed agitated. The employee said yes. Frank seemed intense, like he was looking for someone. Hollis brought Frank in for questioning. He showed Frank the notebook. Frank denied writing in it. Hollis showed Frank the timeline, the truck stops, the witness statements. Frank went quiet. Then he admitted it. He said he had followed Daniel. He said he wanted to scare him, to make him understand what it felt like to lose everything. Frank said he forced Daniel off the road. He told Daniel to get in the trailer. Daniel refused. Frank pulled a knife. Daniel complied. Frank locked the doors. Then he reversed the lock mechanism. He wanted investigators to be confused. He wanted it to look like an accident. Hollis asked why Frank reversed the lock. Frank said he thought it would make it impossible for Daniel to escape. He did not realize the reversal would actually make it easier. Frank said he drove away. He thought Daniel would suffocate or freeze. He did not care. Hollis asked if Frank knew Daniel had escaped. Frank said no. He thought Daniel had died in the trailer. When the truck was never found, Frank assumed it had been stolen or hidden. He moved on with his life. Hollis arrested Frank. He charged him with kidnapping and murder. Frank's lawyer argued it was not murder. Frank had not intended to kill Daniel. He had only wanted to scare him. but the prosecutor said it was felony murder. Frank had committed a felony, and someone died as a result. The jury agreed. Frank was convicted. He was sentenced to 40 years. Monica attended the trial. She testified about Daniel. She said he was a good man. He did not deserve what happened. After the verdict, she thanked Hollis. She said knowing the truth helped, even if it did not bring Daniel back. Hollis asked if she wanted the brass key, the one Daniel told her about. Monica said yes. Hollis gave it to her. Monica held it. She said Daniel had always been prepared, even for the worst. Police closed the case, but he kept thinking about the trailer, the reversed lock, the mistake that allowed Daniel to escape, but also sealed his fate. If the lock had been normal, Daniel would have died in the trailer, but he would have been found. Eventually, when the truck was discovered, instead Daniel escaped and died alone in a ravine. Police wondered which was worse, dying trapped or dying free but lost. The trailer was eventually auctioned. The cargo was discarded. The lock mechanism was returned to its normal position, but the scratches remained. A reminder that some people try to create mysteries, not to hide the truth, but to make the truth harder to find. And sometimes their plans work, even when they fail. Some mysteries are solved by understanding what the killer intended and what they got wrong.